Welcome to episode 9 of the Rondo. Ryan is my name, and joined as always by a new guest today, the dog, Lila, in the corner. If you hear her clopping around, that's because she's a dog.
Yeah.
And joined by
a very needy one.
Very needy. She loves you. She's back around here again. But Josh Parrish, as usual, my co-host and partner in crime. How you doing today?
I'm doing well, Ryan. I'm excited to have a chair today. We were sitting on the floor last week, and now I'm sitting in a fully supported gamer chair. So what an upgrade.
Yeah, and I gave Josh the gamer chair because obviously you're leading the Premier League picks. So I think respect has to be shown on that front.
I'm in the throne this week.
Yeah, and look, it's a long way to the top for me at this point in time because I don't think I'll be sitting in that chair. So I'll be sitting in this short, whatever this chair is.
The pleb seat.
Yeah, look, that's fair enough. I was backing Norwich for the first 3 weeks. And I think that's what cost me in the end. But I want to start off the top of today's show with something that we saw we wouldn't talk about again, which is Manchester United. But we'll do a quick segment on it because I think it's important. Manchester United, Liverpool won 4-0, 5-0. And
you went to sleep at 4-0, so you wouldn't know.
To be honest, went to sleep at 2-0. And I didn't know what the score was. I went to sleep and I was like, maybe I'll wake up and it was like Atalanta. But at the same time, it was not. And my dad called me and his first question, I went, hello. And he went, are you okay?
Good parenting.
Good parenting. I was not okay. It was a terrible performance. I want to ask you, last week's show, we talked about how Ollie usually is able to find results, right? Like goes on a bad run. Next thing you know, he's beating Man City at the Etihad because Luke Shaw's run down the left wing and scored a goal. Is there anything salvageable from this moment? Because the Atalanta performance wasn't great. This one is shambolic. Is there a way back for him now?
There shouldn't be. But maybe due to the apathy at the club and the lack of a director of football and the lack of, football knowledge in the club hierarchy above Ollie, there might be. It's crazy to me that the Comunicado Oficial hasn't arrived yet and he hasn't been sent packing because that's a sackable performance. Especially in this context. It's almost a sackable performance regardless of context.
Yeah.
But the thing I found really interesting was watching the Class of 92 pundits on the various TV channels try and wiggle their way out of saying he needs to go. Paul Scholes, to his credit, probably came the closest to it.
Gary Neville can't say it.
Gary Neville was doing all sorts of mental and maybe literal gymnastics to try and avoid saying Ollie has to go. It was extraordinary to watch. It really is the clearest example of United exceptionalism among that class of 92 and that group of players who played under Sir Alex Ferguson, because they see the long-term safe pair of hands manager as crucial to the club's identity. But it's really only maybe 2 eras. Busby, which was a long time ago, and Sir Alex. And you're not going to find another Sir Alex Ferguson. No. It's just not going to happen.
No.
So trying to chase that dream is unhelpful. And the idea that United shouldn't go and hire a proven world-class coach like, say, Antonio Conte to whip this sorry squad into shape, the idea that they shouldn't go out and do that is crazy to me.
Yeah, and it's baffling. And I'll give you 3 reasons why I knew that we were going to lose this morning. Right? First one, at 4-0 down at halftime, you come out with the exact same formation, with the exact same ideas, thinking that you could fit a square block into a round hole.
I mean, Pogba sort of came in to make a midfield 3, but he was quickly on his way.
Yeah, so I mean, between you and me, no real change there.
And it's not as if Paul Pogba is going to stabilise the team and provide defensive cover.
No, and I just don't understand where the coaching is, like the tactical nous. Like, it's where is that? Like, I get, like, the Class of 92, it's your mate and all that kind of thing, but at some point you have to call it for what it is, which is it's not good. It's just not good.
This is not good enough. I mean, and the idea that United could go out with 4 forwards who had little to no defensive remit, playing a 4-2-4 with McFred isolated and running, chasing their tail, running in circles, trying to mark up midfield players. I mean, it's just, there's a real lack of joined up thinking there. And I think it demonstrates just how out of his depth Ole Gunnar Solskjaer really is. The idea that formation and that game plan was going to work against Liverpool the way it worked.
The kings of pressing.
Yeah, and a really modern team, well coached, well drilled, with 11 players who are all involved in both the attacking and defensive phases of the game. To try and play sort of 6 defenders and 4 attackers with no one in between is insane to me. And it's harking back to a era of football that has long since passed United by.
Second point. Harry Maguire did the post-match press conference, and he said something that really annoyed me, which was, they were like, thanks for coming to do the thing, and blah, 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 and he's like, blah, 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 and then he's just like, I have to be here. And it's not that, like, you can say it in a way that's like, I have to be here in a sense of like, and I want to be here. I'm the captain of Manchester United. But the way you said it was kind of like, I got to be here. And I think that's annoying because he's the captain of the club. You'd expect the captain of the club to want to front up to the media, to the fans at this point in time. And sure, he did the apology tour and all that kind of thing. But the thing is, like, look like you want to be there.
Yeah. Even if you do feel that way, you can't show it.
For sure. And I get it. I'm not Harry Maguire, but at this point in time, you're making me look like just as good as you. And Van der Vaart said that he sees Harry Maguire's play on Sunday League every fucking Sunday on the weekend. And at this point in time, it's like you spent 80 mil on this kind of player, and Virgil van Dijk is like a different level and was cheaper.
Yeah.
And the third thing, and this is the most telling, which was when they walk out, right? You know how they walk out now, like the away team first in the line and then the home team because of COVID and all that kind of thing. So Liverpool comes out straight as an arrow, everyone behind each other, just like perfectly drilled line.
I don't know what I've been told.
That's right. And then United come out, shambolic. I mean, what is going on with that line? You can't play a 4-2-4. I thought you could at least do a line formation. They couldn't even do that. They were like Ronaldo's teeth when he signed for the club. Do you remember that? Like, there's famous things of like before Ronaldo was like Ronaldo, and then like after he was Ronaldo, and he was like an absolute like whatever
cheap shot.
But it's just you can't. Like, I don't get it. And so much of the game is mental, right? Like. And when we play Churches League, you think about like, we want to be louder than we want to do the drills before the game better, and like you want to look organized because it's like that little 1%. And I'm not saying Churches League same as Premier League, so don't get at me, but
it's all football. It's the same kind of body language, the same kind of intimidation tactics are crucial. I mean, think of all those clips of Patrick Vieira fronting up to people, fronting people in the tunnel. I mean, there was an entire era at Arsenal where the away team was scared when they walked out.
Yeah, and there's just none of that anymore at Old Trafford. And seeing them walk out in that kind of like lackluster, shambolic, like unorganized line that they're called. You look on my Instagram, right? Like I did a clip. The line was like whatever at the beginning. And then it gets to the end of the line and it's Bruno Fernandes, Ronaldo and Rashford walking side by side, which is, last time I checked, not a straight line. So that's how I knew we weren't going to do well against Liverpool.
And I think that was reflected in the game with Luke Shaw's interpretation of an offside trap. So
Insane. But anyway, that's all we're going to talk about on the United front. I just wanted to bring those things up, my observations, which, again, not tactical, but at the same time, not good either.
Insanely underprepared. Just, you said it, shambolic. And I don't think we're likely to see another sort of Big Six team front up in such a naive fashion in a game for the rest of the season.
Insane. A second thing I want to bring up with you, Josh, which is something that I've been thinking about because it was a crazy transfer window just gone. But I want to talk about the relative competitiveness in the Premier League, but talking about that broadly as well across Europe, because Chelsea ran away 7-0 winners against Norwich, which is a big result in itself. But I also thought that it was symbolic of the gulf in class and quality, for a team that can't get a win, can't get 3 points to the defending European champions. But also what that says in terms of an argument for maybe a salary cap like other sports, like, the NBA and stuff like that. But talk to me first about that Chelsea performance, because they had a few injuries as well, which were telling, but they still ran away winners. And then talk to me about what your thoughts are in terms of how we solve that gulf in class.
Well, 7-0 with a partially second string Chelsea 11, which tells you all you need to know about the gulf in resources and quality from the top of the Premier League to the bottom. Lukaku wasn't playing, Kante wasn't playing, and still they absolutely ran away with it, and it wasn't a contest at any point in the game, from the opening whistle till the final whistle. So, I mean, Chelsea could have won that game with their eyes closed. Callum Hudson-Odoi, who has been mostly a fringe player, was outstanding. Didn't impress Thomas Tuchel, though, who said he needed another 250 good games under his belt to guarantee a start for Chelsea.
Tough boss.
Yeah, jeez. Horrible bosses starring Thomas Tuchel. Imagine that kind of like goalpost shifting from like your manager at work. Like, you would be fuming.
Yeah.
But, you know, maybe he was just trying to say that no one's guaranteed a start.
Yeah, for sure. Mason Mount got a hat trick.
Yeah, it was crazy, and it did spark a lot of backlash online. I saw against Norwich. This team is woeful. How are they in the Premier League? How do they keep getting promoted? You know, they don't add anything to the competition, and I think that's missing the point entirely.
What do you mean Pookie Blinders doesn't add anything to the competition?
Well, I mean, they don't seem to have the ambition to stay up in some people's eyes.
Yeah,
some people's
sure.
eyes. But they're just running their club in a logical way. They don't go up like Fulham did that season and spend like crazy and then go straight back down, and then you're in trouble and you can't necessarily get out of the championship immediately. They have a pretty sustainable model. They have a manager who plays pretty progressive football that gets you promoted but doesn't necessarily keep you up if you don't have the players to beat Premier League teams at their own game. They have a transfer policy where they'll sign young players and sell them for profit. And a lot of good players have come through Norwich. And a lot of Godfrey, Jamal Lewis, Max Aarons will have a big price tag on his head at the end of the season, I suspect. You know, there are countless examples. Todd Cantwell, your mate.
Yes, Rondo United's very own.
So, you know, I think they're running the club in a very sensible way, and then they get the TV money from the Premier League that season. They get the parachute payments, and they go down. They get promoted. They do it all again.
Yeah.
So the incentive structure is set up in a way at the moment where it doesn't really make sense for them to spend the money they would need to stay up. They're just chancing their arm and seeing if Daniel Farke can pull off the incredible, and he won't be able to this season, but it's not his fault. And
you only have to look at clubs like Derby County as well, who invest so much in attempting to get up and fail, and then also experience the same kind of financial chaos that can bring.
Exactly. And there's such a gulf between the Premier League and the Championship at the moment that there's only certain clubs who probably shouldn't have been down in the Championship in the first place, like Leeds, that can actually survive when they go up. So you see a lot of these yo-yo teams between the two divisions, and I think that is a problem for the competition's competitive integrity. Because week to week we see upsets, and you know, we certainly struggle to predict the games every week, especially those mid-table battles. But you see the same teams winning every year and the same teams going down every year. And there's a point at which I think some adjustments are in order to make the playing field not level, but fairer.
Yes.
And that's where a salary cap could come in. The Premier League is in a financial league of its own, so I think they can potentially self-police in that regard.
But and before you go on, right? I just found it ironic, and I just wanted to get this out before I forget it, because sometimes I just forget things I'm going to say. But I found it ironic as well when, like, for example, this is pertinent to Newcastle. Saudi takeover, big money coming in, and then the Premier League clubs all voted that you couldn't sign sponsorship deals with the owner's affiliated brands or something like that. And the only club that voted in favor of that, with like on Newcastle's side, was Man City, obviously, Abu Dhabi Group and all that kind of thing. Do rich owners play a part in also this conversation?
Yeah, absolutely. And that was what financial fair play was supposed to combat. We've since seen that it was a little bit toothless in actually trying to accomplish that. And now the Premier League clubs are basically trying to institute their own version of financial fair play, because UEFA couldn't actually prosecute when it was shown that a certain club in Manchester City had blatantly disregarded the rules and misrepresented owners' money as sponsorship dollars. And that's what the other clubs are afraid Newcastle's about to do. I think Newcastle, we've talked about the human rights issues at play.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't think there's a problem with them spending money per se. I do have a problem with where that money comes from.
Yep.
But there has to be a level at which there is redistribution of wealth. And that's where a luxury tax comes in for me. I think a hard salary cap is a bit silly and hard to enforce.
Yep.
But a luxury tax on player wages, total wages, over which there is a penalty that you have to pay that is redistributed amongst the other clubs could work. And that's essentially the model that's happening in the NBA.
And so then what would you say to fans that go, how is that fair, first of all, right? Like, and you can think about the two arguments being like the big clubs then will have to cull a lot of wages, which means players have to go and stuff like that. But then on the flip side of that, players also had to have that. I foresee it as like, it's my dream to play for Manchester United, but they can't afford me and I don't want to cut what my earning potential is. You know, like how do you negotiate that changing landscape then?
Well, I think it would have to be instituted over a number of years, with the salary cap being quite high at first, and then year on year going down to a target. And then it would probably have to be indexed against things like TV rights and so forth, because you can't just have a hard number that never changes.
So Jadon Sancho can stay at United?
Possibly.
Yeah, but Ronaldo has to go, is what you're saying.
Yeah, that's it. If you actually look at a graph of all the Premier League wages, there's an extraordinary disparity.
Yes.
The big clubs would still be able to spend well more than their nearest competitors, and you would be able to lop, 100 million off their wage bill. Something like it's crazy.
Yeah.
I don't know the exact figures. The problem, I think, becomes more that rent seeking will emerge from abroad. So if the Premier League institutes their own rules, then leagues that are unregulated, wherever they may be, might end up poaching players and reducing the quality of the competition because they can offer high wages at PSG or Real Madrid or Juventus or wherever. So I think you have to set it at a level where the Premier League can still spend, but where it doesn't mean that Chelsea's third string can beat Norwich 7-0,
Yeah.
It's not about leveling the playing field. It's making it a little more fair, just a bit, so that there's not this crazy stockpile of world-class players and internationals. The first 11 can still be way better than, the mid-table and relegation battlers. But having 22 or 33 international level superstars at your disposal is, I think, ridiculous and doesn't lead to good competitive tension. So with the rent seeking thing, it might have to be UEFA wide, depending on how stringent you want to be with a salary cap.
I was going to ask, so would it just be English football, or like you said, to combat that, you'd have to make it across the competition?
I mean, UEFA would be the ideal body to institute this, but where the money goes is really important as well. The level of penalty that you're paying on any money you're spending over that salary cap, the luxury tax, where that goes, the maths of how it's redistributed to the other clubs. That's very difficult to work out. And also UEFA has been shown to cave to the pressure of the big clubs, as they've done with the restructure of the Champions League, as they've failed to institute financial fair play in a way that actually penalises the clubs that do the wrong thing. So I'm wondering whether the Premier League, with this massive amount of revenue that it generates.
Makes me uncomfortable when you say massive.
Massive.
Do that with your hands.
Just voluminous total of money.
Yeah.
They could basically have a Scrooge McDuck money fight every week without, worrying about, it's a ridiculous level of income from these TV deals globally that they get. They could level up their own competition potentially without jeopardizing their competitiveness across Europe, and I think that would ensure the financial future of the competition. Yeah. Because then you've got an even more compelling league to watch, and then you're making even more money off those TV deals.
That's, what we're talking about, this makes me think about then is can you have a draft system for all the football?
Draft picks.
Wouldn't
Norwich
that be exciting?
with the first pick in the Premier League draft. Daniel Farker selects
Kylian Mbappe. How'd that happen?
You know, I wouldn't do a draft. I think that's too complicated with
Yeah,
the
no, that's
international thing. And I think clubs should be rewarded for investing in their youth programs and so forth. I wouldn't cap transfer spend at all because that's a really big revenue stream for the lower clubs, the lower tiers. You know, clubs in leagues that are selling leagues, they need those transfer fees to survive.
For sure.
I would be capping wages and a soft luxury tax salary cap, so you could still spend over it if you have the money to do so, to pay the penalty.
Yeah.
And I know players' unions won't be in favour of it, but if the money is redistributed down the pyramid, you're not going to lose much in terms of overall club spend on wages because the players at the smaller clubs will be getting more money, and it'll just mean that the distribution of those players, say Ben Chilwell being the backup left wing back at Chelsea, might be enticed to go to Southampton instead, where he can start and get paid almost the same.
Yeah. So what Josh is saying is that he is an opponent of the free market. What I'm trying to say is get your bag, get yours. Get yours is what I'm trying to say.
Well, it would jeopardise United's position because they're totally incompetent, just outspend everybody and somehow blag their way into the Champions League every now and again.
Look, I think on some level the human element of me understands what you're saying, but on the other half of me says get yours, Ben Chilwell. If you want to get bags just sitting on the bench, who gives a fuck?
Yeah, I mean, I think it would be more compelling if players went in search of first-team football than backup player wages at big clubs.
Donny van der Beek. Free Donny.
Exactly. Imagine if you could get first-team football at a mid-table club, earning really good money instead of being a backup at Chelsea or Arsenal or Manchester City. Then the competition would be so much more interesting and you'd have this spread of really quality players across the league.
And we'll end on this one. Does that then diminish the power of brand in football? Because like you see big, like Real Madrid and Barcelona are prime examples of legacy brands, right? Like Ronaldo is obviously a big one, but like all these players, even Mo Salah at sometimes has been linked to both those clubs. It's just clubs that people grow up and go, I need to play, I want to play for them. Do you see the salary cap as a way of starting to then diminish the power of brand in the game? Because brand is a big money maker for some of the biggest clubs in the world. And so suddenly if you have these limitations around like how you build a squad out, that might impact the power of brand.
I think the Champions League will always be a big driver of international exposure and money and brand power, I suppose. Look, I would be very excited to see clubs go a little bit more local, a little bit more back to their roots, viewing themselves as community assets rather than super brands. That is probably utopian thinking, and I don't think any of this is ever going to happen. But I think it's a really useful intellectual exercise to think about what is actually keeping clubs like Norwich from competing. Is it because they don't have the ambition? Are they not spending enough of their revenue? Or are they just running themselves in a sustainable way that is realistic for them in the long term instead of risking it all on short-term glory?
And that's why you can tell that I'm the one that works in marketing and Josh is just a football aficionado. Football purist.
So my book Das Kapital will be out next month.
All right, quick dog break there. We just moved house, so obviously the dog is just a bit anxious.
Yeah, but got to reassure her between segments that everything is okay. And while we might be speaking very loudly, we're not yelling at her from the other room.
No, we're not. But now we're going to move on to Premier League picks, Josh. And again, not doing very well. You're in the nice chair because you are the league leader in this sense.
Yep.
But we did draw this last weekend.
Yes, for the second week in a row, I think we drew.
No, you won last week.
I won by one, didn't I? We hadn't recorded yet. Oh, no, it was a draw. It was a draw.
Crystal Palace.
I picked Arsenal. So you were about to win last week.
So it is a draw.
So we drew.
So here's what
So Arsenal equalised in the last minute and prevented you from winning the match week.
Got it.
So we drew 3-3 last week, which wasn't great.
So here it is. All right. What we're going to do is, I didn't know we drew last week, so I have to do two.
Okay.
is we're going to play a game of FIFA for each match week to see who gets the points for it, rather than leave it as a draw. But it's the deciding game,
Okay.
right? So like say for last week was Arsenal Crystal Palace. We have to go with the teams that we picked
Oh.
in FIFA. So I have to go Crystal Palace. You have to go
Okay,
Arsenal,
alright,
and then
I
we'll
like
film it. We'll film it. So just to recap, while we're on our phones just then, we worked out that last 2 match weeks we both drew.
Mm-hmm.
So to decide who gets the points for those match weeks, we're going to record 2 separate episodes of FIFA head to head, me versus Josh. First one, Arsenal Crystal Palace, where I'm Crystal Palace, Josh picked Arsenal.
Mm-hmm.
And the second one, Brentford Leicester, because that was a game that we both got wrong. I'm going to take Brentford, you take Leicester. We're going to upload that separately.
Nice.
And I have to order a new PS5 controller, but that's fine. I'll claim it on tax. So
I feel like I'm in a slight disadvantage here, even though I'm taking the bigger team both times, because you own the game and I do not.
and I own a PS5, not a flex, but
Yeah.
I'm just saying. But you played it in my house the other day.
Yeah.
It's tough.
It is really hard.
It's like a new game completely.
Yeah, but as long as the computer isn't involved, we should be okay.
Yeah, 100%. So I think we'll do that. That way, either I'll be like 7-0 down, or I'll be on the board.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
Nice
Let's head
one.
into this week's picks.
All right, let's do it.
So game 1 of match day 10, Leicester City Arsenal.
I've gone with Arsenal.
I've gone for a draw.
Okay.
I think Leicester in good form.
Yep.
Yuri Tielemans, which we need to do a segment on him because that boy is balling out.
He is cooking.
Those long shots are ridiculous. But I think Arsenal are also in a good little patch. I think they'll cancel each other out.
Yeah, I think Arsenal, just because Thomas Partey is playing so well, they've managed to integrate all their attacking players for the first time in a long time. I've been pleased with how stable they seem to have been defensively in a lot of these games, maybe less so against Palace, but yeah, I'm going for Arsenal.
Next one, Watford Southampton.
Watford Southampton, I've gone with a draw in that match. I'm not sure what to think about Watford after that Everton game. It feels like a little bit of a fluke, a little bit of a new manager bounce.
Well, I've gone for Watford. I think Josh King is a king and he will score again against Southampton.
Dilly Ding, Dilly King.
That's it. That's the one. Moving on from that white boy pun. Liverpool Brighton.
I'm going with Liverpool. They are
That's light work.
unbeatable at the moment, even though, as I say every week, I do like Graham Potter.
Yeah, XGs.
Yeah, the XGs.
Newcastle Chelsea. Come on. Like, we have to talk about this one that much. Okay.
No more Steve Bruce.
Well,
You know what they called him behind his back at Newcastle?
who called them? The players?
The players?
What are they called?
Tactically inept cabbage head.
Man
Moving
City
on.
Crystal Palace.
I'm going with Man City in this game. They're
I was
so
so
consistent.
tempted.
You love Palace.
I love Palace. Conor Gallagher, Eze, Olise, Benteke. It all ends in A.
Yeah.
But
Patrick Vieira.
yeah, but I've gone Man City as well because, I mean, you'd
be insane. There's a shirt on the line here.
Yeah, and I'm so far behind. Burnley Brentford.
I have gone with a draw in this game.
I've gone for Brentford.
Well, you always go for
I
Brentford.
love Brentford. Someone get me a Brentford kid.
Yeah, I just think this is a classic Sean Dyche eke out a 1-1 with a goal from a corner.
But you know who I'm impressed by? Maxwell Cornet.
Yeah,
The
good
first ethnic player in Burnley history. I chose my words very carefully.
Yeah,
Doing pretty well. That left foot volley.
it was beautiful, wasn't it?
Dirty.
Exactly. They've got a couple of good attacking players. Brentford, more of an overarching game plan, but Sean Dyche just has a way of
No, I respect
eking
it.
out results.
Tottenham, Man United.
I've gone with Spurs.
Yeah, I've gone Spurs.
I mean, come on. How can we pick United after that?
It's rough. It's rough being a United fan right now.
It
and
is.
I can't believe on match day 1, after we thumped Leeds, I went on Instagram and said we're winning the league.
I would like to say that I did not get carried away by that
I got
result.
very carried away. I think the direct quote was, I don't know what a team viewer is, but I'm buying all the shirts.
You know who wasn't in the team that day?
Who? I thought we could get away without doing this, but who wasn't in the team, Josh?
I'm just doing the office style look to camera. I think you can fill in the blank.
Yeah. Norwich City Leeds.
Leeds, give me Leeds.
Yeah, I took Leeds as well. Even though they're not too crash hot at the moment, but Norwich can't get a point from
Don't pick Norwich. Not again.
Aston Villa West Ham.
I've gone with West Ham. They are just moising it up right
Yeah.
now.
I picked
Moise
West Ham.
in the hood.
sometimes I really don't like you. But that's okay to admit. Look,
Backstreet Boys.
I've just going to move on. Brush past it. You're almost done.
He's back. All right. He's never left, actually.
I've been big on Aston Villa, though. And I'm off the train just like I'm hopped off the Norwich train. Because I think they cost me points, to be honest.
Yes, they have.
So it's gone West Ham. They look good. Mikel Antonio is the form of his life.
Yeah,
But I think you've talked about Said Benrahma coming into his own for Now's. Declan Rice is just looking unbelievable.
Yeah, look, I have been a big fan of his. I thought he was in the Euros a bit of a centre-back masquerading as a midfield player, but he's really coming into his own in games that can be a bit chaotic, and he's got a bit more space to operate.
Yeah.
And when the game's at a really high pace, and he can use his physical attributes to getting box to box, he really shines. And honestly, Manchester United could really do with a player like him at the base of midfield at the moment.
And look, like with a last name like Rice, culturally, I feel like I have to be on board. So
I still don't forgive him for turning his back on the Republic of Ireland national team.
No, you're not even Irish.
No, but still. He played for the team. I mean, and then he played for England.
It's all right.
He said all these pro-Irish things, and then he's playing for the old enemy. It just doesn't sit right with me.
Okay, well, you made it political. I just made it racial. Last game of the match week is Wolves-Everton. This one I thought was a tough one. I've gone a draw.
Possibly sensible. I've gone with Wolves.
Because they do look good now under Bruno Lage, whatever. How do you ever say his name? Apologies. But
whatever mysterious man from the continent they ship in every season.
Yeah.
A bit Watfordish.
Yeah,
in that sense.
Portugal Wanderers.
Pretty much. I just thought Everton were so all over the place against Watford. I couldn't back them for this week.
Yeah.
They'll be knocked around a bit. But, that's a tough game to pick.
Well, Josh, just hit my face on the mic. Another episode of the Rondo coming to a close. And look, I'm looking forward to the FIFA clashes now that I know that I can... I'm in with a shout to get some points because boy, do I need them.
You've really engineered a way to make this exciting again, haven't you?
It's just the marketer in me. Content, a bit of fun. If I can get 2 points on the way, that's good.
Sure. All right.
So I'm looking forward to it.
To claw back that 4-point disadvantage
I think so.
at the moment?
I think I'm 4 or 5 down. So
someone needs to do an order to these
You're
picks.
You're Liverpool at this point.
Yeah.
And I'm Manchester United.
You're on the canvas, Ryan, but we go again.
We go.